What if I told you that one small, ordinary nut, the kind you already pass every single time you walk down the grocery aisle, could begin easing the pressure of an enlarged prostate in less than a single day? No surgery, no expensive prescriptions, no unregulated supplements with a mile-long list of side effects. Just a humble, natural food that costs a few dollars and sits quietly on a shelf waiting for you to notice it. And here is the part that genuinely bothers me as a physician. Most men over the age of 60 have never once been told about it. I'm Dr. Anthony Fauci. For close to 3 decades, I have worked as a physician and a clinical researcher, and I have devoted my career to one specific question: how the food we put into our bodies either activates our natural defense systems or quietly undermines them. The prostate happens to be one of the most powerful, most dramatic examples of that principle at work, and it is also one of the most tragically ignored. Over the years, I have sat across from thousands of men struggling in silence. Men who are exhausted, not just physically, but emotionally. Men who wake again and again through the night, dreading the interruption before their head even hits the pillow. Men who strain at a weak, hesitant urinary stream and feel a frustration they would never say out loud. And beneath all of it, that deeper, unspoken fear. The fear that what is happening now is only the beginning of something more serious. I know how these symptoms work. I know how they chip away at a man's sense of strength, his dignity, and his feeling of control over his own body. And I know something else too, a truth that most men never hear, and one that the medical establishment rarely leads with. Certain nuts. Yes, simple, natural, affordable nuts can measurably help reduce prostate inflammation, support the return of healthy urinary flow, and actively assist your hormonal and sexual health. This is not fringe medicine. It is grounded in real, peer-reviewed research. The information has simply been buried beneath decades of pharmaceutical marketing and a culture that prefers a pill for every problem. Today I'm going to walk you through the 5 most powerful nuts for supporting prostate health, and I will show you the actual medical evidence behind each one. More importantly, I will show you exactly how to use them for maximum benefit. And I want you to stay with me until the very end, because there is one particular preparation method, a tiny kitchen step that costs you almost nothing, that can dramatically accelerate how fast one of these nuts begins to work. That one detail alone could be the turning point your prostate has been quietly waiting for. Before we go any further, do me one quick favor. Hit that subscribe button and tap the bell icon, so you never miss a video designed to help men over 60 live stronger, longer, and with greater confidence. And drop a comment below. Tell me where you are watching from, your city, your country. I genuinely want to see how far this message is traveling, because there are men all over the world dealing with this exact same silent struggle, and you are not alone in it. Let me start with the nut that surprised even me the first time I dug into the research. Pumpkin seeds. Nature's own prostate protector. Whenever I reflect on my years in medicine, one kind of patient comes back to me again and again. Men who are worn down, not just by their symptoms, but by the fact that they have tried everything their doctors recommended, only to feel more drained, more dizzy, and no closer to real relief. The medication may have been prescribed with the best intentions, but for many men the side effects become a second illness stacked on top of the first. One such patient stayed with me, a 67-year-old retired firefighter who had spent years wrestling with urinary problems. He had been through several different medications, and every single one had left him lightheaded, fatigued, and stripped of the drive that had once defined him. He was getting up 6 times a night. He was losing hope, and you could hear it in his voice before he even said a word. So I recommended something that made him pause. Pumpkin seeds. He looked at me the way a lot of men do when a doctor suggests food instead of another prescription. Skeptical, almost amused. But this is not folk medicine. This is biochemistry. Pumpkin seeds are one of the richest natural sources of zinc on the planet. That matters, because your prostate is, in a very real sense, a zinc storage organ. It depends on zinc to function correctly, and it holds a higher concentration of it than almost any other tissue in the body. As you age, those zinc levels progressively decline, and when they drop, the prostate becomes far more vulnerable to inflammation and the kind of pathological overgrowth that causes trouble. The clinical literature has consistently shown that low zinc correlates with an elevated risk of BPH, benign prostatic hyperplasia, the very condition responsible for that weak stream and those relentless nighttime trips to the bathroom. The problem isn't mysterious. It is, in significant part, a nutritional deficit that has been building for years. But pumpkin seeds do more than deliver zinc. They also contain beta-sitosterol, a plant compound studied specifically for its effect on the prostate. Beta-sitosterol works by helping to block the enzymatic conversion of testosterone into dihydrotestin, DHT, the hormone most directly responsible for driving prostate growth. By helping to moderate DHT production, beta-sitosterol may support a slowing of prostate enlargement, and in documented cases it has been associated with measurable relief from urinary symptoms. That is a real, biochemical mechanism, not a wellness slogan. And I want to be straight with you here, because you deserve honest answers, not promises. Food is powerful, but it is not a magic wand, and nothing I'm sharing today should replace the advice of your own doctor, especially if you are already on medication or being monitored. What I'm describing is support. Always speak with your physician before making meaningful changes to your routine. Back to that firefighter. He began eating a small handful of raw, unsalted pumpkin seeds every day. Within 3 days, his nighttime trips dropped from 6 down to 2. By the end of the second week, he was sleeping through the night for the first time in years. At his follow-up he said, "Doc, I finally feel like myself again." I won't tell you every man will see results that fast, because that would be dishonest. But what he experienced was not a coincidence. It was targeted nutritional biochemistry working exactly the way the science predicts it can. Here is how to do it correctly. Choose raw, unsalted pumpkin seeds, not roasted, not sweetened. Aim for 1 to 2 ounces a day. And if you want to go further, soak them overnight in water before you eat them in the morning. That one step helps break down phytic acid and significantly improves how well your body absorbs the minerals inside. A small daily habit, but the effects compound in ways that surprise you. Next, a nut that works at the cellular level to defend your prostate from the inside out. Brazil nuts. I think of Brazil nuts as the cellular defenders. They are, without real competition, the single richest dietary source of selenium on Earth. A single Brazil nut can contain far more selenium than almost any other food. And selenium is not some minor supporting player. It is essential. Selenium acts as a critical activator of antioxidant enzymes in your body. These enzymes help neutralize the free radicals that drive oxidative stress, accelerate cellular aging, and promote the kind of chronic, low-grade inflammation that makes your prostate increasingly vulnerable over the years. When selenium is low, that protective system weakens. When selenium is adequate, the system runs properly, quietly keeping cellular damage in check. Selenium also plays a direct role in DNA repair and immune surveillance, your body's own ability to catch and correct problems at the cellular level. Population studies have repeatedly associated low selenium with elevated prostate cancer risk and accelerated glandular deterioration. This is a mineral your prostate genuinely requires, and a great many men are simply not getting enough of it. But here is the remarkable part, and I want you to listen carefully. You do not need many. Precision matters enormously here, because selenium toxicity is real. 1 to 2 Brazil nuts a day is all it takes to saturate your system with protective benefit. More is not better with this particular food. More can actually become a problem. That point was driven home with a patient I still think about. He was 72, dealing with years of chronic prostate inflammation, a history of an elevated PSA, and persistent nighttime urination disrupting not just his sleep but his marriage. We kept his protocol deliberately simple. 2 Brazil nuts every morning with breakfast. Nothing dramatic. Over about 3 months, his PSA showed a modest but meaningful decline, and his nighttime urination improved substantially. His energy rebounded. But the thing he said that I remember most was this: I feel like I'm actually participating in my own healing now, instead of just waiting for a pill to fix me. That sense of agency, of taking deliberate, evidence-informed action with your own 2 hands, is something I want every man watching this to experience. Store Brazil nuts raw or dry roasted in the refrigerator to preserve their oils. And I truly mean it, do not exceed 2 per day. This is a precision intervention, not a snack bowl. Done correctly, this small daily ritual can quietly fortify your prostate from within. Now let me turn to a nut you have probably eaten all your life without ever knowing what it could do for you. Walnuts. Walnuts are among the most heavily researched nuts in the entire nutritional medicine literature. They are the most concentrated plant-based source of omega-3 fatty acids available to us, specifically alpha-linolenic acid, or ALA. And here is something almost universally overlooked in conversations about prostate health: blood flow. Few people connect the health of their prostate to the health of their circulation, but the two are deeply intertwined. Poor circulation and chronic inflammation feed on each other. When blood flow to the prostate and pelvic region becomes compromised, inflammation intensifies, oxygen delivery drops, and the symptoms a man feels day after day become steadily worse. Omega-3 fatty acids address this directly. They help reduce systemic inflammation. They support what is called endothelial function, the health and integrity of the lining of your blood vessels, and by doing so they can measurably improve oxygen delivery to pelvic tissues. The clinical result is a reduction in urinary urgency, a stronger and more consistent stream, and, yes, improved sexual function. Because better circulation never benefits just one organ. It benefits every system in your body. I had a patient in his late 60s who had quietly accepted his diminishing vitality as simply an unavoidable part of getting older. He began eating one raw handful of walnuts each day as part of a broader protocol we designed together. Within 3 weeks, his sleep had improved, his energy had returned, and his wife told him, in her own words, that something had come back to life. I'm not sharing that as marketing language. That is what improved vascular health looks like in a man's daily experience. Aim for about 1 ounce a day, roughly a handful. Choose raw or lightly toasted walnuts, stored in the refrigerator to protect those delicate polyunsaturated fats from oxidation. And here is a small bonus. Pair your walnuts with vitamin C-rich foods like berries or citrus, because vitamin C can enhance the body's use of the nutrients you are taking in. When you restore blood flow, you restore vitality, physical, mental, and emotional. That is the walnut advantage. Now I want to share something I often tell audiences when I speak about food as medicine, because it applies perfectly to the next nut. The most powerful interventions in human health are frequently the most ordinary ones. The things sitting right there in your kitchen, overlooked because they are so familiar. Almonds are a perfect example. Almonds are one of the richest dietary sources of vitamin E, specifically the tocopherol form, which acts as a potent antioxidant inside prostate tissue. Oxidative stress is one of the primary drivers of prostate inflammation and cellular dysfunction. Vitamin E intervenes directly in that process, helping to shield prostate cells from the kind of cumulative damage that compounds over years and decades. But almonds do not stop at vitamin E. They are also an excellent source of magnesium, a mineral almost nobody talks about in the context of urinary health, which is a mistake, because magnesium plays a critical role in smooth muscle relaxation, including the muscles of the bladder and urinary tract. When those muscles are held in chronic tension, urgency goes up and flow goes down. Magnesium helps regulate that tension. On top of that, the monounsaturated fats in almonds support hormonal balance and steady, sustained energy, 2 things that noticeably deteriorate as men age. I remember a patient who was 64, disrupted sleep, declining energy, frustrated by a body he no longer recognized. He began eating 10 soaked, peeled almonds every morning, and changed nothing else. Within 3 weeks, he was waking only once each night. His daytime energy stabilized. His mood lifted. And he said something that has stayed with me for years: I didn't realize a habit this small could make this much difference. That is the clinical reality I see again and again. Small, consistent, targeted inputs, applied over time, compound into meaningful improvement. It is never about one heroic gesture. It is about the steady rhythm of doing the right thing every single day. When you choose almonds, go raw or dry roasted and unsalted. Avoid anything flavored, coated, or sweetened, because those added sugars and oils undo the very benefit you are hoping to gain. Around 23 almonds, roughly 1 ounce, is the optimal daily amount. Soak them overnight to improve digestibility and increase how much of their nutrients your body can absorb. The same simple preparation step, and it makes a measurable difference. And now we arrive at the nut most men have never once considered for their health. Pecans. Culturally, pecans show up in desserts, in pies, in pralines, in sugary toppings. But scientifically, they deserve a permanent place in every man's daily health protocol. Pecans are one of the richest plant-based sources of beta-sitosterol, that same DHT blocking compound we discussed with pumpkin seeds. That means pecans deliver a similar, powerful anti-androgenic effect on the prostate, supporting a slowing of enlargement, reducing hormonal pressure on the gland, and helping with measurable relief from urinary symptoms. But pecans go further than that. Their total antioxidant capacity, measured by what researchers call ORAC scores, exceeds that of most fruits. They are loaded with monounsaturated fats that support cardiovascular health, hormone regulation, and healthy pelvic circulation. And in the research literature, diets rich in these specific fatty acids are consistently associated with better urological outcomes and improved markers of sexual health in men over 60. I had a 70-year-old patient who actually raised an eyebrow at me when I mentioned pecans. "Doc," he said, "those are for pie." I told him to give it a month. 1 month later he came back sleeping through the night, reporting noticeably less urinary pressure, with that particular expression I have seen so many times, the look of a man who has reclaimed something he thought was gone forever. "I didn't realize how much discomfort I had simply accepted as normal," he told me. And that, right there, is the critical insight I hope you carry from all of this. We normalize our own decline. We tell ourselves that waking 4 times a night is just what getting older looks like, that a weak stream is inevitable, that diminished vitality is a tax we all eventually pay. But you do not have to accept any of that as permanent. Age is not the enemy. Inaction is. To use pecans, aim for 1 small handful a day, roughly 20 pecan halves, raw or lightly roasted, always unsalted. Store them in the refrigerator or freezer to protect their oils from going rancid, because those oils are exactly where the benefit lives. Taken consistently, Pecans can steadily help rebalance the hormonal and inflammatory environment inside your prostate. So let me pull all of this together and make it something you can actually act on, because information without implementation means nothing. You do not need to buy all 5 of these nuts today. In fact, I'd advise you not to. Start with 2. If you want rapid symptomatic relief of that pressing, urgent feeling you are dealing with right now, start with pumpkin seeds. If your focus is long-term, cellular-level protection, Brazil nuts are the place to begin. Then, as those habits solidify, add walnuts, almonds, and pecans to the rotation and build a complete, natural protocol. Buy them raw and fresh. No coatings, no salt, no added oils. Read the label the same way you would read a prescription, because in a very real sense, this is one. Then eat them at a consistent time each day, ideally with breakfast, or as a steady mid-afternoon snack. Consistency matters for 2 reasons. First, it builds the habit, and habits are what carry health. Second, it supports your body's rhythm of absorption, so you get the most out of every serving. And here is a step almost nobody does, but the men who follow it see better results. Track your progress objectively. Write down how many times you get up at night, how strong your stream feels, how much pressure you are noticing, and your overall comfort, once a week. When you track, you see the change, and seeing the change is what keeps you going. Within 2 to 3 weeks, many men begin to notice measurable shifts. Not overnight miracles. Anyone who promises you an overnight miracle is not being honest with you. What you will notice instead is the steady, compounding improvement that tells you, unmistakably, that your body is responding. That is what real progress looks like. So let me leave you with the final thought I want you to carry from this video. I have spent my career in medicine and research demonstrating one fundamental truth: food is not passive. Food is information. Food is medicine. The compounds in these 5 nuts interact directly with the hormonal, inflammatory, and vascular mechanisms that drive prostate dysfunction. This is not wishful thinking. It is documented, peer-reviewed science that has helped real men reclaim their sleep, their comfort, their confidence, and their sense of themselves. You do not have to accept constant discomfort as simply what getting older looks like. Your prostate can stabilize. Your energy can return. Your quality of life can improve, not in spite of your age, but because you decided to take precise, informed action. And as I said earlier, always do this in partnership with your own doctor, because the best results come when natural support works alongside proper medical care. Start small. Stay consistent. Trust the biology. Your body is not working against you. It is waiting for you to hand it the right tools. And now, that one detail I promised you at the very beginning, the simple preparation method that can dramatically accelerate how fast one of these foods works. Here it is: soak them. Soak your nuts overnight in clean water before you eat them in the morning. That single step breaks down the compounds that block mineral absorption, softens the nut, and makes the zinc, the selenium, the magnesium, and the vitamin E dramatically more available to your body. It costs you nothing but 10 seconds the night before, and it can meaningfully speed up the results you feel. That is the difference between eating a nut and actually absorbing it. If this video gave you something useful, do 3 things for me. Hit the like button, subscribe, and tap the bell so the next one finds you. And share this with another man who is out there looking for real answers, because there is a very good chance he is dealing with this in silence right now, and this might be exactly the message he needs to hear. And tell me in the comments, which of these 5 nuts will you start with first? And where in the world are you watching from? I read those comments, and I want to see this conversation travel. Because real, lasting change never begins with a grand gesture. It begins with small, daily choices, a handful of the right food, made deliberately, again and again. You are not just supporting your prostate when you do this. You are rebuilding your vitality, one day at a time. And that changes everything.